Once again, audience people at planetearth.com. Today I'm here to talk to you about careers. No, not if you're leaving school or just being made redundant, but careers in Dark Heresy, the 40k role-playing game, because that is what they call classes. Or at least I should say we're here to cover the 8 basic careers, the original ones. Yes, it got expanded, more things were offered in a lot of the other books, but we're here to talk about the basic 8, just to keep things simple, the archetypes, to show you what is available. It's very much about what homeworld you're from, combined with what element you want to bring to that. You see, there's a lot of scope for altering things up and taking it away from just being the obvious. I could go through all of the careers and then tell you how they could vary from different types of homeworld, how this career could be different if it's from a more backwards or feral world, or how if it's from an industrious world, the same career acts in a completely different way, in a completely different RP sense. So for example, a psyker, for instance, is a completely sanctioned psyker. They might be a particular certain type of psyker, the one you might be imagining, but then technically, if you've chosen a psyker career, and then if you're from, say, like a backward homeworld, then you might be more of a shaman or something. So it could completely affect the legality of you even being out and about, the way you could play it, the kind of powers you have. We're just going to cover basically what the actual 8 archetypal classes are. Then you can think deeper about that upon discovering them. Now I think it's also appropriate to point out the differences between the way the classes work in this versus, for example, Warhammer Fantasy roleplay, because I know a lot of you have played Woothrup but haven't played this. Firstly, this doesn't work at all like Woothrup, okay? The amount of careers to pick from the basic list is indeed 8. I know that in Woothrup you had a whole lot of classes to choose from. Now a lot of these classes in Woothrup to choose from were some of the more mundane things. So you could be like a rat catcher, or you could be an antagonist, gazette vendor, and you could get away with that in Woothrup. But guess what? In this, you can't. It's not that it's rigid, more rigid in an unenjoyable sense. It's actually giving you some focus, some RP story element for being so rigid. So you can really enjoy that and know that you don't have to try and come up with why it's relevant for your guy to be there. It's not like in the fantasy where just groups of people might meet in a tavern and decide to become a party. You've all being brought together because you have skills that will be useful for the Imperium. All of you are acolytes serving under an Inquisitor. That Inquisitor will give you your missions. That's your boss. There are a number of Inquisitors within the Inquisition, and you are wholly expendable. You get to go into the rough and find out the answers to the problems so that he doesn't have to. Who knows, some of that party might one day become Inquisitors themselves. But it takes all different types of people and brings them together. So they want a nice mix to make a group that will be functional for the Inquisitor. So there isn't really any room for normal people, and that's one of the questions I was asked. However, in the scope of 40k, when you consider what else is out there, the things like the Space Marines and what have you, then these are actually quite normal comparatively. So why is an Inquisitor going to hire some guy that just drives a taxi for a living? Unless he was some great information gatherer, and then he would be able to be maybe slotted into one of these 8 classes, for example. The one that comes straight to mind, of course, is Scum. I think a taxi cab driver could probably be a Scum quite easily for the information gathering aspect of it. They overhear and partake of a lot of things going on in the back of their cabs. They know the scene quite well. The other major differences in the careers is that there are no exit careers, okay? And when you change career, You don't have to fill a bunch of criteria out, all the stats you have to have completed first, all the trappings you would have first needed, and then pay the however much 100 experience to change career and the particular career exits. In this, you're rank 1 at start. When you have enough experience, you automatically become rank 2 and you can select from rank 1 or rank 2. And when you have the next amount of experience required, you become rank 3 and you can select from rank 1, 2 or 3 skills and talents or carry on with your stats. You just get better at the first thing you've chosen. Saying that, some of the careers then, at certain points, I think it's rank 5-ish, they start splitting off into branches like a tree. And they're usually quite different from each other. And then technically, each of the ranks has a name. In my Assassin's case, I'm a Celestial at the moment, but when I hit rank 5, I'll actually be an Assassin. You could say, oh, well, you know, actually that's quite restrictive, or some of you D&D people might say, well, you know what, I want a multi-class and that. But no. The restriction actually creates theme here. You don't usually get restrictions like this in your role-playing games. So do you know what I say? I say, go with it, and celebrate the restrictions. Celebrate the fact that you can't just be necessarily so much of a wild card, that you have to work for the Inquisition, that they have to make use of you as a tool. But then it's okay because that is the RP of the world. We'll move on to the classes themselves then. In alphabetical order. Knowledge is power. Do not waste it on the masses. The Adept. I'm going to do this in a very blunt manner, as I explained I would. And so a lot of you are going to say, oh, you're making it too black and white. Again, it's intentional so that we don't have a massively long video. This is to very basically tell you what the classes are. And you can do the homework and find out how different you can make them from the way I'm making it sound initially. The Adept, at the basic mentality of its class, is generally a scholar, a learned type. Not so great in a fight, but lots of intelligence. Law skills, if you like, basically. Now, a lot of you will have encountered scholars before, even in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. And we even had one in our Their Fated Travels group. That would be Tobias. I'm sure you know where to find it now. The playlist is on my channel page. Now, it isn't even necessarily that these are better at dealing with people either, because some of them can be very bad at talking to people. So it is literally about the powers of their mind and about how much information they know. And that's going to be a really, really crude explanation for this. If that more subtle sort of supportive play sounds interesting, and still being able to fight, of course, and get into the ruckus of it all, then that's the Adept, and you can look further into that. No shield may stay the blade of justice. The Arbitrator. Again, it can be very, very different, obviously, based on what type of world this arbitrator is from. But generally speaking, an arbitrator is the law. It's a police officer. It's a cop. The one in our group, he's more of a detective. He's going down that route. You can end up like Judge Dredd, usually quite tough. It's a very important thing to have in your group. When the group is away and they don't have their Inquisitor with them and they're on a mission, it's a little official element of imperial law that they get to still carry around with them. And in some ways, he really would be the most prominent door-opening figure. And this idea of opening doors is very important in Dark Heresy. The format of the game is usually investigate and then fight as a result of that investigation. Sometimes you might need to go through upper channels and people like you might not be allowed access, but because you've got an arbitrator with you, he's a law officer. The Emperor wills all things, even deaths. Some deaths he wills swifter than others. The Assassin. This is the class I'm playing. It doesn't really need a lot of explanation, does it, guys? This is your basic rogue damage dealer. Can't take a lot of damage, but are really, really agile. You could be a rangy type 1, become a sniper, go with assault weaponry, or you might be a melee type 1, or something more subtle. Get in and poison someone and be unseen. They can even be a sanctioned organisation. Humans have had to go to such lows here just to survive. So calling in assassins is quite acceptable to keep mankind going and root out something that's considered problematic. A man without faith is a man without a soul. Do not suffer the soulless in thy ministry, for they make doors for dangerous forces. The cleric, that should be pretty obvious. They serve the church, the embodiment, the empowerment of the Holy Scripture, and of course, what's God in this world but the God Emperor. Great power against evil forces and be able to very much highly oppose them. With the social element that heresy has about it, this is somebody that can find out and gather information from you. This is someone that's more high up in society that can do it for you, so they can go to their useful sources because they're trusted. They can help you gather your information. And of course, it's all about information. It's an investigation all the time. Knowledge is power. They've got access to a lot of very powerful stuff as well. They can become very good shooters, for example. And some of the names of the further ranks there, like Zealot and Bishop and Exorcist and things like that. It's really, that's quite crackers, isn't it? So they can actually become quite talented at their combat elements too, That reminds me of that line from Brain Dead, the Peter Jackson movie, the zombie movie, where the priest, I think is it a priest? Or a vicar? Something. Says, I kick ass for the Lord! And then he's in the graveyard and then he starts doing martial arts on the zombies. The Guardsmen. In a universe where the first thing that comes to mind whenever you think of 40k is the Space Marine, it's Games Workshop's little poster boy. You have to remember that, however, that these are not the ones that are truly the backbone of the universe. That role falls squarely upon the shoulders of the Guardsmen. It is the soldiers, the grunts. These are the people that throw themselves into harm's way with the vast majority of all the fighting done in the name of the Emperor. It's your Guardsmen. Again, it's the kind of homeworld you're from which will regulate what sort of Guardsman you'd be. Or are you more just a Guardsman type, kind of a soldier who's been out there living on your own and not even working for a military force perhaps even. So you can become more of a stormtrooper, a shock trooper type. You could go down the more commander type route, or you can go down the more ranged fighter route. When things turn nasty, he's your man. You want there to be bringing about his military expertise. The Psyker. So you could be a sanctioned Psyker or a not sanctioned Psyker. This gives you the sanctioned Psyker trait with side effects table to roll on. Okay, I'm going to be blunt again, okay? It's basically a wizard of sci-fi, okay? You've got a big old spell list, Psyker powers, and your willpower, mentally make these effects happen. Now, Psykers are pretty important in this world. For example, travelling through the warp, they use a Psyker for navigation purposes, or else they'd probably get lost, because remember, when you're trying to go through the warp, as in quick space, fast, between A and B, or it would take you ages otherwise, then you are pretty much leaving yourself open to the demonic realm. You're taking a shortcut through hell. And of course it takes somebody as powerful as a Psyker to be able to help navigate you through that. The Emperor himself was an incredibly powerful Psyker. They are considered very dangerous. Psykers in 40k can sometimes have an impure thought, allow something to open up in their mind, and their brain becomes a conduit for chaos forces to manifest themselves, and before you know it, you've suddenly got a chaos portal opening up there and then on the spot, and the demonic legions flooding out into our universe. They are very, very powerful and very, very dangerous to everybody around them. Scum. Again, this is another one of those ones that it depends what your background is and what your homeworld is. It isn't necessarily, a criminal, the thief type. I mean, you could let it go down that route, and you could have them be a pickpocket and a criminal, somebody who's a ex-convict, or they could just be, as described in that example before, a taxi driver. Low-down types with information-gathering abilities. They can open a lot of the doors to you within the lower elements of society, just like the cleric can in the upper elements. If your GM is playing the sort of campaign that I think the majority of GMs in Heresy do, where information gathering is key, mostly aided by the ability to slip through certain doors unnoticed or open them quite easily through to channels quicker, then the scum is a very useful addition. If you thought of it in terms of Mass Effect 2, some of you might have played BioWare's role-playing game, multi-choice path RPG on the Xbox or PC, or PS3 I think. The female Jack would make a very suitable scum in a heresy setting. And finally, the Tech Priest, the cult of the machine spirit. In 40k, the idea here is that they believe that a machine spirit bonds itself to all machines, and you have to appease the spirit for the machinery to work well enough. So it's really weird, isn't it? In such a high-tech, futuristic world, their thinking is so spiritual and archaic as well with it. What an interesting mix. And if you fancy being the specialist of that mix, the one that can get in and do all the tech stuff, all the cool engineering and things, then Tech Priest. Heck, with all of the different sort of implants and things available, you could end up quite cybernetic, with electric whatnots and whirling doodahs all connected to you. You can tell that I play orcs in 40k, can't you? Well, alright, I've covered the 8 basic classes in about as blunt a fashion as could be humanly possible. But it is a very basic introduction, and you can see which one of those catch your attention that you want to look further into. For the purposes of making this video, that is mission success, and I will see you in the next Dark Heresy video. Stay tuned until then.